Our Torah portion of this week, Lech Lecha, is when it all started. When it started our connection to the land of Israel. It's right there in the Torah. And God said to Abram, Lech Lecha, go for yourself from your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. It started in this week's Torah portion, and yet I have to tell you, I almost didn't prepare a Torah portion for this week. I had nothing to say. After sleepless nights and constant reading, what more is there to say? But thanks to the New York Times, I thought of something I wanted to say. Very rarely will I say the words thanks to the New York Times. But they had an article this week that really made me think. The article was entitled Fulfilling Last Wishes in a Difficult Time. As Israel struggles to bury its own, its cemeteries are still magnets for U.S. Jews. The article describes how even with this war going on, Jews from outside of Israel are still trying to arrange to have their loved ones buried in Israel. This practice goes all the way back to the Torah, where Yaakov asked his son Yosef not to bury him in Egypt, but rather among his ancestors in Hebron. It's in Hebron that all of our matriarchs and patriarchs, aside from Rachel, are buried. When I read about this, it reminded me of what Israel has meant to the Jewish people. This idea of being buried in Israel reminded me of an article that was written some years ago by my father's brother, my Uncle Max, who was a renowned cantor of blessed memory. Many years ago, he wrote an article in New York's Jewish press entitled, Who's Jerusalem? And here are some of the words from that article. In the home of my parents in Old Hungary, a conspicuous 12-inch square over the door remained unpainted to serve as a constant reminder of the destruction of our ancient homeland and its temple in Jerusalem. On the eastern wall of our living room, a colorfully embroidered sign spelling Mizrach, East, reminded us to direct our prayers eastward toward the land of Israel. On the coffee table lay an ever-present, handsome booklet containing pressed flowers from the Holy Land. In the kitchen, one of the pushkas into which my mother placed some coins was marked for charitable institutions in the holy city of Jerusalem. And then listen to these words. The best guarded item in our house was a small bag of sand from the land of Israel, from which a few grains were placed into the coffins of the departing members of my family. I'll never forget those words. I never knew my grandfather. My grandfather died when my father was only 3 years old. And here I had a picture of his home in Hungary. And I first understood why my love of Israel is so much a part of my very being. It's in my kishkas. And let me tell you, my grandparents' home was not much different from many of yours. This Israel did not start in 1948 and did not start as a result of the Holocaust and did not start because of the Balfour Declaration. It started with a promise God made to the Jewish people. In this week's Torah portion, God says to the Jewish people, this land is going to be yours. I am making an everlasting covenant with the Jews to inherit this land. It's written there in the Bible. Now, what do Christians and Muslims say? They consider the Old Testament holy. Well, evangelical Christians take these words very seriously, and that's behind their support for the state of Israel. And Muslims? Well, Muslims believe in the Old Testament, but they believe some of the passages have been lost or rewritten. And of course, the passages where God promises the Jews the land of Israel were those that must have been rewritten. But we Jews have taken this connection to the land of Israel seriously, going way back. Not only when we lived in Israel, but even in exile. You look through the Talmud, there are so many laws specific to the land of Israel. For example, a man may compel all of his household to go up with him to the land of Israel, but none may be compelled to leave it. Do you hear that? If the man of the house, and these days the woman of the house, says, we're going to Israel, you all got to go. And if the leader of the house says, we're leaving Israel, you don't listen to him. Listen to another one. Our rabbis taught one should always live in the land of Israel, even in a town most of whose inhabitants are idolaters. But no one live outside the land, even in a town most of whose inhabitants are Israelites. For whoever lives in the land of Israel may be considered to have a God. Another one. In the case of him who buys a house in Israel, the deed may be written even on the Sabbath day. You mean to say on the Sabbath? It must therefore mean, as stated by Rabbah in the case mentioned there, that a Gentile is asked to do it. So also here, a Gentile is asked to do it. For though to ask a Gentile to do some work on Sabbath is usually prohibited, the rabbis did not maintain this prohibition in this case on account of the welfare of the state of Israel. On and on throughout the Mishnah and the Talmud, rabbinic literature, Israel, 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 Israel. And then came the Balfour Declaration in 1917, where Britain said the British government hoped that the declaration would rally Jewish opinion, especially in the United States, to the side of the Allied powers. Yeah, Israel hoped that the declaration, the Balfour Declaration, would be popular amongst all and the Allied powers, and it was. So Israel was formally given to the Jewish people by the world in 1917. So let me read to you what happened in Israel, in Hebron, the very Hebron where our patriarchs are buried, where Yaakov asked not to be buried in Egypt, but in Israel. In 1929, and I'm reading from a book describing what happened in Hebron. In some 50 Jews, men and women, had taken refuge outside the ghetto in the Anglo-Palestinian Bank, which was managed by one of their own, the son of Rabbi Slonim. They were huddled in one room. The Arabs, the soldiers, and the Grand Mufti soon sniffed them out. It was Saturday, August 24th, 9 in the morning. After blowing open the door of the bank, they cut off hands, they cut off fingers, they held heads over a stove, they gouged out eyes. A rabbi stood immobile, commending the souls of his Jews to God. They scalped him. They made off with his brains. On Mrs. Sokolov's lap, one after the other, they sat 6 students from the yeshiva, and with her still alive, slit their throats. They mutilated the men. They shoved 13-year-old girls, mothers and grandmothers into the blood and raped them in unison. That's a description of what happened in Hebron in 1929. So you tell me, who was occupied in 1929? Who was blockaded then? Who was under occupation then? No one. That's who. And it never stopped to this very day. And you know what the Brits did to protect the Jews of Hebron in 1929? They made them leave. We're not leaving anymore. We should remember that God promised us this land. We should also remember that God told us in the Talmud, the rabbis say, that 3 things were given to the Jews which will require pain: the Torah, the land of Israel, and the world to come. We're feeling that pain these days. But let's remember, there is a blessing that God gave us right at the beginning in this week's Torah portion. He told Abraham, those who bless you, I shall bless, and those who curse you, I shall curse. Our enemies are forever cursed. Look at the great empires that tried to destroy us: Egypt, Babylonia, Greece, Rome, Spain, Austria, Hungarian, Ottoman, all gone. And we're here. And we're staying here. Yisrael Chai. The people of Israel live. Shabbat Shalom.